Right, first of all, a couple of haiku from Gordon. Anyone see where when it went? We see, not live now, slip, slide into lost, dead then. Time bears all away. And Ghost Trains. Addiscombe shuttles left at 13:42, now run in my dreams. And Joe Sanders, Time Please. During the siege of Leningrad, the only thing broadcast on the radio was the ticking of a clock day and night for many months. My grandfather's gilt timepiece under its dome of glass was hidden away in the front room and wound up every Sunday. The clock on my wall synchronizes with the British Standard Frequency time signal, accurate to 1 second in a million years, but ultimately dependent on one AA battery, not included. I consult my watch incessantly, all the time in the world, but never enough. Time is a healer, time is a thief.
Powerful, powerful. Yes, that's very nice. Now we have the wonderful Sue. Sue, what have you got for us?
There we are. Right. Sorry. Oh, that's it. I've got one new poem and a couple of ones I read before, but they're from my next book that's coming out in March. So I start with that one, Journey, which is the title of the book. This is the eponymous poem. Journey. Useful directions, so you tell me, depend upon the starting point. I must begin again. Each turning that we take depends on so much else. How choices race towards us while we're all misreading maps. How precious things get left behind. How soon the soft young green of summer withers. How the rain mists up the view. How, when you drive out from the center of a starry sky, you hold your breath against the cold of winter coming. And how the cat's eye of a crescent moon, carved radish thin, will sometimes serve to light you when you lose your way. Go back and start again. Take nothing with you but the burden of your loving. Carry it with care, and this time, do not put it down. And then, thank you. There's a little short one, it's called Shell. You had a presence once, but now your empty curve weighs light inside my hand, bone dry, annulled, although the music in your absence still connects us, howling in the blood. That's that one. And this is the new one I've just written. So, and it's a bit miserable. Sorry, most of my poems are a bit miserable. Peter told me that once a long time ago. But it's about, winter coming and also a bit, I wrote it for my sister, who has ongoing medical problems. It's called Ritual. Cold mornings stack up, dark as ice, fish dead and gaping, summers spent. We have forgone the garden rites. There is no hymn of autumn, no cornucopia of gathered fruit. Flowers fade without a murmur, only ragged weeds hang on. Bitter, ashy bonfires drift. But there were days we will remember, and there was warmth, fine, fragile light. I'm watching, writing, sifting through the memories I fan out, thinking what to say to you, to guard you from the sharp-edged lacs of winter. So many unsaid prayers. This one must be the stone you'll hold for comfort in your palm. Cool to begin with, but just let it sit. Slowly, it will share its ambient heat. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful poem. Beautifully
thank you
read
very
as
much.
well. Knockout stuff. Thank you,
Thank
Sue.
you. Lovely.
Amazing.
Thanks.
Amazing. Now, for something completely different, we're going to move to Jim. Evening, Jim.
Hi. The first poem actually I wrote before the Afghanistan crisis, quite a while before. The place fascinates me, and it's called BBC Documentary, Last Century, in black and white. I see Afghanistan, TV cameramen, a charming Arab executioner, and some teenage boys who clearly worship him. Advising them to be good and worthy of heaven, the man takes out a knife and approaches them with an antique smile. In the background, the enigmatic desert waits for moisture, blood, tears, or rain. Decades later, the boys' faces, their shrieks, their mock fear still remain. And the second poem is actually, I sent this poem off as a poem to a magazine, and the chap wrote back to say it doesn't work as a poem, but it would work as a kind of prose poem or a kind of flash fiction, or call it what you want. But so I didn't change anything from the poem. On the planet of love, it's a winter's night. The television flickers. A plump Labrador stirs in its sumptuous sleep. Presently, the door opens. The landlady enters, sits on a settee. She's middle-aged and fierce, but to the lodger, she's very attractive indeed. She pats the dog and takes out a cigarette and watches some TV. Actually, I'm not that keen on sex, she says by and by. If that shocks you, I'm sorry, but I can't keep secrets no matter how I try. He blinks. Clouds of smoke hurt his eyes. Please don't misunderstand, she adds. Sex makes the world go round and helps me to feel like a real woman. He nods, picks up the console, changes the channel. After a while, an element of pique enters her voice. Listen, George, you simply have no idea what life means. I'm breathing. She laughs, flicks away some ash. But living and existing are not the same thing, George. My two boys, for instance, though far from perfect, sometimes make me want to scream with joy. And my ex-husband, admittedly a peevish drunk who pissed his revenue against the wall, was once a charming prince. She sighs fondly. There's rough and there's smooth. That's what life is all about. But you, George, she stops, points at his face. You've shaved off your moustache. Why? He clears his throat. Your beauty overwhelms me, and your breasts are divine. I say these things because the planet of love is at an all-time high. He gives a cheesy grin. She gives him 2 weeks' notice and leaves the room. The Labrador sniffs the air, senses things are not what they might be, and stares through the window at the waning moon.
Wow. Is that it for now, Jim, or do you...
That's it, yeah.
Okay, my dog's decided it's play hour, so I'm trying to, ignore him at the moment. Get out of it. Oh, sorry about that. Lovely, Jim. Very good, very good. That first one about Afghanistan was very, very touching, about what's going on with people and young people and changes of life there.
I do remember that particular film. It must have been 50 odd years ago. I thought, oh, what a place, what a strange place.
Absolutely.
And this phrase called Afghanistan is bandit land. And it's what it is. It's just run by bandits.
Yeah.
No problems.
Yeah. I suppose it took us 1,000 years to get past the medieval barons and stuff like that. But, we expect huge things. Anyway, thank you, Jim. Thanks. Very interesting. Lovely stuff. Now, we haven't got Jane, so we can move straight to the Isle of Wight and Steve Rushton. Hi, Steve.
Hello everyone. Yes, the Isle of Wight's fine. It's nice and sunny. And we have the festival this weekend, so we're all isolating from the hordes that are invading us and writing poetry, hopefully. So what am I going to read to you tonight? It's I've got an exhibition coming on, so I had to write a kind of publicity paragraph for the exhibition. So it is kind of, as Jim says, perhaps flash fiction, prose poetry, but hopefully it is what it is. So the exhibition is called Homage, and this is just a draft of what I'm intending to write for this publicity paragraph. So, Homage, a series of paintings looking back to the great artists and movements, from Romanticism to abstract expressionism, a period where art believed it could make a change. Cézanne's juxtapositions of complementary colours, structuring fragmented landscapes reconfigured. Expressionism's early 20th century heightened sensibilities applied to pre-apocalyptic scenes where paint is vegetation, devastation, invasion, or nothing at all except paint. Early geometric abstractions glimpsed through soft focus filters, time blurring hard edges, and optimistic views of modern futures replaced by nostalgia. Miro-esque surrealism's free forms floating in soup-like liquids of the unconscious minus psychoanalytical exits. Mists of romanticism engulfing twilight-like paintings sucked into the weave of an all-embracing canvas. These works act as filters for dreams and nightmares. Yearnings for an age where paint wasn't ironical, didn't need text as explanation, mid-tone grounds allowing darks and lights, meeting rooms for conversations with close colours and tones, chatting incessantly to each other while encased in either crazy brushstrokes or gauze-like layerings, and all on moderate scales, not gallery-sized monstrosities, but domestic and dark enough to suck in late-night ruminations, yet light enough to avoid despair. The following are quotes from artists and movements referenced. I had resolved to work in silence until the day when I should feel myself able to defend in theory the results of my attempts. Cézanne, 1889. It is well to remember that a picture, before being a battle horse, a nude woman, or some anecdote, is essentially a plain surface covered with colours assembled in a certain order. Maurice Denis, 1890. With a belief in continuing evolution, in a new generation of creators as well as appreciators, we call together all youth. And as youth carrying the future, we intend to obtain freedom of movement and of life for ourselves in opposition to older, well-established powers. Whoever renders directly and authentically that which impels him to create is one of us. De Brooker, The Bridge. The familiar recedes even further and further into the background. The contours of the objective world fade more and more, and so it goes, step by step. Malevich, The Non-Objective World. Pure psychic automatism by which it is intended to express verbally in writing or by other means the real process of thought, thought's dictation in the absence of all control exercised by the reason and outside all aesthetic and moral preoccupations. André Breton, 1928. I think of my pictures as dramas. The shapes in the pictures are the performers. They have been created from the need for a group of actors who are able to move dramatically without embarrassment and execute gestures without shame. Mark Rothko, 19. Quotes from H.B. Chip, Theories of Modern Art, University of California Press, 1968. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. That was very interesting. That was really interesting. I don't know if anyone watched that workshop program where a number of craftspeople, they restore things for people on television. And there was this wonderful picture of the wife of Charles I, Queen Henrietta Maria. And it's when this restorer got to work on it, the colours changed. And she said, look, she's actually pregnant. You know, the whole image of the picture changed as the restorer got to work, and it came to life. And I just think, what a wonderful thing painting is. You know, it can shift from one thing to another. Anyway, that's enough of my philosophy for the day. So, Vivian.
Yes, hi there.
Yes, hi.
Hi there. I've got two poems, one of my own and one that isn't my own. This is one that I wrote for last month's Croydon Library poetry session, when the theme was home or house. And I wrote a poem called An Englishman's Home is His Castle. And this is it. An Englishman's home is his castle, or so the saying goes. Chooses who comes through the door with a welcoming gesture. Family members arrive with greetings and gifts, staying until it is time to return to their own abodes. When they depart, we pull up the drawbridge, close the doors against unwanted intruders. No different to times gone by, when we guarded against enemies, battened down the hatches against siege and attack. Now we lock our doors, set our burglar alarms, security cameras and lights to protect our homes and belongings from intrusion. Doesn't matter where you live or what you possess. A house is just a building, but a home is yours. Okay. And the other one I've got is, it's one of my favourite poems actually, and I just came across it when I was looking in one of my poetry books. I'm sure it's one you all know. It's Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley. I met a traveller from an antique land who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that his sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vivian. You want to read any more, or are you going to?
No, that's fine. Thank you. That's all for now. Thank you.
Okay, very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking about guarding your home, you know, and COVID and all that kind of stuff. You're reading that one.
Yeah.
You know, about our home being a castle.
Yes.
Anyway, but you read very well. Thank you. It's lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we have Norman. Good evening, Norman.
You got me, George?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I've got three, George. Second one's a really short one. Others are sort of half a dozen. A couple of bits of prose. Since I was last joined you guys, I've been thinking about past life, etc. And so I've got a couple on that. So this takes me back to the 60s. I was in primary school, and there was a bunch of people that came into my mother and father's life, and consequently mine, and they were a major influence for about 12 months on me in terms of art, literature, and music. And this is what this little story is about. So it's called Blowing in the Wind. Talking to Dylan earlier, just coincidence. Right, Blowing in the Wind. It mushroomed from an earlier Tam O'Shanter night when they met and drank with my father in the Holly Tree Tavern. An eclectic mix of skiers and mountain climbers, descending on our house on Friday evenings, escaping the suburban life and the city noise. All bohemian in woolly sweaters, jeans, boots, and a mix of colored anoraks for all occasions. All the guys had shoulder-length hair, and most of the girls had hair that cascaded halfway down their backs. I was still in primary school and was unaware of Dylan Thomas and Bob Dylan, whom they read and played on worn acoustic guitars. It was pleasing to fall asleep to the melodies of Blowing in the Wind. Next morning, they would set off to the Cairngorms, an hour's drive away, hoping for decent snow on the slopes. Despite optimistic weather forecasts, they often returned on Saturday night with tales of woe due to the lack of snow. When I was tucked up in bed, upstairs in the back bedroom, I could just hear the ceilidh in the distance, well on its way, driven by button key accordion, fiddle, mouth organ, and acoustic guitars. Late Sunday morning, folk surfaced and rustled up sizzling full-cooked breakfasts. In the afternoon, we all moved on to country walks amongst the silver birch and returned to read poetry in the cozy Aga-fueled kitchen. Looking back, you might think my parents ran an open house, but for them, it was natural Scottish hospitality. For 48 hours, it was an ideal world, an escape from the daily drudge. Word spread to the city and the paparazzi came a-visiting, smelling a meaty story, but my parents drew the line. Relationships came and went, and by the following year, most of the skiers and mountain climbers drifted away, like snow off a dry stone dike. I was left with an old, faded, jaded acoustic guitar in my bedroom, propped up in the corner for a year or two, until I finally bought a chord book and taught myself to play Blowing in the Wind. Thank you. Next one is, again, just a reflection of my life. This is called Swinging 60s. Everybody talks about the swinging 60s, but I was too young to swing. Older cousins drip-fed me the culture, including Dylan Thomas and Bob Dylan. The politics of Vietnam, who shot President Kennedy? Would we make it to the moon? In the summer of '66, England won the World Cup. My World Cup Willie football was my pride and joy. Kicked and kicked until it looked like a large sandy boulder on the beach. In the summer of '69, they landed on the moon. I climbed to the top of Mount Snowdon and never looked back. Now then, this last one is nothing to do with me, apart from writing it. This is about, it's a conversation between a father and son. As a reader, I'm the father. And I want you to imagine this takes place in a large village in the heartland of Italy. It was influenced by Italy winning the Euros, and it just flowed, apart from a few tweaks. It's called, for the purpose of this poem, it's called Azzurri. And Azzurri in Italian means blue or deep blue, and that's what the Italian national team play in, blue. Now the son, I've named him Azzurri, so this is the father talking to Azzurri. Azzurri, you may have conquered Europe and built your gated villa on the Orchid Hill, but take me down to the village square, where the children play hide and seek amongst the market stalls that smell of fresh fruit and catches from the Cobalt Sea. I people watch, see the tourists trek and admire the ornate white church, where Madonna and child look down upon them. Suddenly, the bells ring out and the vision of a young bride dressed in virgin white and flowing jet black hair appears. She holds her posy of flowers close to her bosom and smiles radiantly to the foreign congregation. The old men playing cards at their chosen table in the shade have seen it all before, so they drink their coffee and simply let the day unfold. Azuri, you were blessed with the gift to play the beautiful game, with style, elegance, and swagger, to play for your country and realize the dream of fame and riches. So come, sit with me now, watch the life in this village square, for this is where you came from, lest you ever forget. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Norman. You've got a delightful way of kind of combining, like that first poem was about the uncertainty of youth, and the detail in your poems is amazing. And I could listen to them for hours. So lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really good. Now, Anne, good evening, Anne. How are we doing?
I'm fine.
Good.
Gardening. I made a manifesto of things to do in my garden. It was 19 lines long. If only implementation were as easy as planning, by August my garden would have been a wonder of the world. Everything would be wherever was best for it. Tall plants at the back, sun lovers in full sun, and weeds in the compost. Falling leaves would float on a current of warm air onto a neighbour's plot. And the snails would pack their shells and emigrate. Alas, these are the pipe dreams of the manifesto writer. It would take 5 years or more to realise them. Or never. Athletics. Here's a field full of sylphs, like deer fleeing before the hunt, nymphs with their hair streaming behind them, flyers soar over bars, bodies elegantly draped. Others leap a distance, cycling the air, before the javelin travels almost as high as the stadium we're in, upward and outward. The throwers are poised for an instant in a remembered pose. The runners, the leapers, the flyers, the throwers, all beautiful in performance, all hardly human. But now, like a different species, enormous in thigh and girth, a small army of trolls tramps to the field, shaking the sod, stamps in turn to the prescribed circle, and shouting with effort, swelling their sinews, throw heavy shots, which don't go too high or too far, but land with a thud. In the sunshine, the runners run like the wind on a blustery day. The flyers soar like birds, upwards and outwards, away from the ground, and the shot putters groan and grunt, achieve mighty deeds, and earn their place in the story.
Lovely. From gardening to surreal athletics, Anne. Thank you very much. Yeah, wonderful world you inhabit. Right, now we're going to Martin. Good evening, Martin.
Evening, George.
Hi.
I'm going to do what I've been doing before and read something from the one book I've managed to publish a few years ago. So I'm going to do a couple of tree poems from the time when I was rather nerdily going around with books of tree guides and trying to identify trees that I should have known already. So I'm going to do two. Lombardy poplar, which the Latin name is Populus ex nigra cultivar italica. Lofty eunuch, vertical in green and black, your legions march in ranks, straight as arrows and Roman roads. Alien conqueror, aloof from native trees, with steepling growth, but sexless, childless, yet with endless offspring. Towering over treeless plains, you rule unchallenged, untroubled by the wind's caress or fury. Your brief spans of dominance overlap by an unfailing policy, divide and conquer. And another one, locust tree, which is Robinia pseudacacia. Imperious immigrant, whose short season follows long hibernation most of spring. What troubles distinctive fissured bark round that moderate bowl, grey-brown, along the grey pavement, in April looking locust stripped of green. At last those sluggish buds erupt into paired leaflets, hiding fierce thorns with green. Later still, bunches of snowy flowers decorate the air, soon replaced by dry pods, rustling with bulging seed. John Cobbett, were these wisely brought? And this is something completely different. This is a villanelle called Reverie. I dream of love, and in that sullen stream come nymphs and satyrs mocking my repose. Some things are true, and some, deceiving, seem more worthy of a wandering mind's esteem. No heart can reckon where its fancy goes to dream of love. And in that sullen stream, where bloated carp disport with idling bream, phlegmatic humours like cold eddies flows. Some things are true, though some, deceiving, seem to offer idylls where love reigns supreme, although the vision crumbles as it slows. I dream of love, yet in that sullen stream, few lucid moments memory can redeem, as time's swift current bears them past my nose. Some things are true, but some, deceiving, seem desirable to animate my dream. Forgetting now which doors I have to close, I dream of love, and in that sullen stream, some things are true and some deceiving seem. Thank you. That will do for now.
That's a pretty brilliant villanelle. Thank you for that, Martin. It's really good. And I love the tree poems as well. They capture the essence of what those two trees were. Thank you. And
Okay.
Good evening, Jack. Even if we can't see you, can we please hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Coming
Hello?
through loud and clear. Yeah, you're fine.
Ah, good. Okay. I'm still living with my obsession about the musicality of language and how it lives in the mind, and you think it's all been forgotten. One came to me this morning in the shower. Ben Britton made some arrangements of British folk songs and with rather clever piano accompaniments. I used to play the piano accompaniments. I didn't used to sing these things, but one of them came bursting out of me in the shower this morning that I would have said I would have forgotten. It goes like this. Oh God, now it's gone.
Don't worry, Jack. Take your time.
Sorry, here's another one that's come flicking up, but again, it's one of the Britten folk songs arrangements, but it's not the one that I was looking for. When I was a bachelor, I lived all alone and worked at the weaver's trade, and I never, all the time I never thought I was wooed by a fair young maid. I wooed her in the winter time and in the summer too. And the only thing that I ever did wrong was to save her from the foggy, foggy dew. It goes on for a few verses on that strain. But what I absolutely wanted to read you today, I'm reading this amazing book of The Turning Point. Robert Buckley Fairhurst, who's a professor of literature at Oxford, has written this wonderful book about the important year in Dickens's life, which the year is 1851. And Dickens goes through various mental processes. And for our great fortune, he was a great noter of impressions that things were making on him. And the railways were a new invention at that time. And everybody was intrigued with them. And when people went to for a ride on the railways, they always made a note of what they saw through the windows, understandably. Dickens does the same thing. But Dickens gives you the rhythm of the train as he's writing this description of what's going on that he sees through the window. The musicality of it, it's simply astonishing. So here goes. I'll try and read this aloud. Bang, bang, a double-barreled station. Now a wood, now a bridge, now a landscape, now a cutting, now a bang, a single-barreled station. There was a cricket match somewhere with 2 white tents and then 4 flying cows, then turnips. Now the wires of the electric telegraph are all alive and spin and blare their edges and go up and down and make the intervals between each other most irregular, contracting, expanding in a strangest manner. Now we've slackened with a screwing and a grinding and a smell of water thrown on ashes. Now we stop. It does not give you a wonderful impression of what it felt like to be in the train. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we're fine. And there's a musicality to that. Yeah, we picked that up. Thank you. That's good, Jack.
The other thing I've got, and I've got a lot of them if you're interested, but I have used them before, some of them. When I arrived in London, there was in the 1950s, as a student, there was a competition going on, and the competition was whoever wrote a poem, the rule was it had to end with the line, "There is no substitute for wool." It was the wool, what do you call them? The old, before they had unions.
I think you did this one previously, Jack, a couple of meetings ago, didn't you?
I'm sure I've done 1 or 2 of them, but I'm sure I didn't do all of them because they were.
Okay, so I apologise.
That made the one that made a profound impression on me as a student and stayed with me forever and caused me to look up all this and to find out the source was the one that goes, if I can find it here with all these papers, because there are quite a lot of them. Here it is, yes. The thing that stayed with me, and I could never forget it, I thought it was a publicity for Whitbread's Ale, but you see how things get confused in your mind after as you store them for a number of years. It was obviously for the wool makers of the UK, and you won some sort of a prize, and they were displayed on the Underground, which is where I saw it. And this poem appealed to, it's as good as W.S. Gilbert, the way it stays with you. The problem in a satellite is where to put the cat at night. For if you want your mind at ease, how can you let poor pussy freeze? The answer reads on your computer, a woolly overcoat will suit her. From sheep to bleep, all know the rule. There is no substitute for wool. One of the first ones went like this. When Casanova went to town, he always took his dressing gown, his bed socks and his knitted gloves, which mystified his lady loves. One gentle temptress asked him why, quoth he, with an experienced sigh, Madam, I used to catch all kinds of chills on those Venetian blinds, so learned this lesson in love's school. There is no substitute for wool. King Arthur's knights sat sullen-eyed. What ails you all? The monarch cried. Quoth one, 'tis round table, sire. The lads out here don't feel the fire. Quoth Genevieve, poor faithful knights, I'll knit you all a pair of tights. Which goes to prove the golden rule. There is no substitute for wool. That'll do for now.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Thank you. You've got a lovely rhythm when you read. It's very nice.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yes, I guess so. Now, could I say good evening and hello to Steve Junior? Hi, Steve.
Oh, good evening, George. This one here is called Sacrifice. Sacrifice is the essence of life's drudgery and tackling. Growing up in the Midlands, a young lad exemplifying all my duties, going shopping, cooking, and even ironing. These responsibilities hit me like thunder from heaven. Persevering, thinking that this lifestyle was normal. No parental support, as my everyday journey was one of difficulty. This was the great sacrifice that was ordained on me and was very untimely and not good enough. I ventured into the church for solace and learned about the sacrifice of our dear Lord Jesus Christ and how he suffered at the hands of men. Battling on, I knew that what I was going through was dreadfully wrong. Taken advantage of at school by my peers, the house I lived in was dilapidated, sarcastic remarks at the house made by my so-called friends, but I found Jesus, whose sacrifice over sin won me my peace of mind, following his orderly manner. This one is called The Dark Dreary Night. Into the dark, densely night I trod, not realizing my whereabouts as this adventure perpetrated in my mind. The night covered me like a canopy of blanket takeover. I hesitated, for I was forlorn into this walk of doom, but yet the light from the lampshades sparkled at me with twinkling majesty. I had left the party and started my journey home. The lost bus I missed by a few perilous minutes. I hovered and hooted with loud walking of marching etiquette, but still this nightly murmuring had me hooked, and I longed to find my journey home. The cars in the distance gave off their last echo voyage. There I was, the lonely syndicate amidst the gathering of darkness embodiment. The quest to get home made me more energetic to get off the street. I prayed. The country lane smothered me as I longed to be asleep. Then by some miracle, I reached home, thanking the lucky stars, but this was a night of intermingling and furious thought-provoking. Thank you, George.
Well, thank you, Steve. Some nice phrases, especially in that second poem. So yes, very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Very good. And I like the way sometimes you reveal some of your suffering when you're a child. You know, it's very honest, your poetry. So well done, Steve.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
Right. Can we move on to Peter now, please?
Right, I'm going to read a couple of poems by Martina Evans. No relation.
Yeah.
Gazebo. Gazebo was the word my mother used to describe a mad exhibitionist or a queer hawk. For example, so-and-so was going around like a right gazebo. Naturally, I imagined a gazebo had legs and travelled, so I was surprised to see my first one on an English village green, going nowhere. The wedding couple toasting each other under its rippling blue and white canopy as cricket bats smacked slowly in the heat. My mother grew up near landed gentry, and the gazebos hidden in their walled gardens must have entered her language like escaped seeds, growing into wild tramps that struggled along the Rathkeel Road on strange overblown feet. And The Dawning of the Day, after Dream Endings by Roisin Tierney. The first time I drew back the curtain in this newly bought Dalston wreck, I heard the clopping of hooves, and there it went, a glass coach with 4 black horses and plumes, the corpse, the casket, the coachman wearing a high hat. I didn't know about East End funeral carriages. Then they became a regular sight, disappearing into Our Lady and St. Joseph's Catholic churchyard with their mum and dad wreaths, or once a piper in a plum velvet cloak stopping traffic as he played The Dawning of the Day. But the shiver still comes back when I pick up Roisin's dream horses and at the same time hear the hooves on the stone outside. Someone is getting the feathers again. Makes me stand still at the old floor-length windows that wouldn't pass health and safety now. The past is a heavy breath on Balls Pond Road, the endless vein of oyster shells in the earth, the ancient wind-up window shutters coming up on a pulley. The fear of being buried alive inclines me towards cremation, and the garden would be the right place for scattering, along with Marcel, Eileen, Murphy, and Alice's kittens. Fitting when I've worked so hard to fertilise that piece of the ground. It's a comfort and a horror every time I hear the coach clatter.
Wow.
Thank you, Peter. So, 2 interesting choices there, and lovely, well read, and
She is a very good poet, Martina Evans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Enjoyed those. Must run in the family, the name Evans, you see. There you go. There you go. Right. Before you say I've got echolalia, which you may say.
You've got echolalia.
One of the challenges our little group had, it belongs to this little Zoom group, you know. No, it's not a Zoom group, it's another email group. And we have 8 words, you see, and you're supposed to put them in a poem somewhere. And I managed to make 2 different poems using the same 8 words. So anyway, here we go. This one, the first one is called Counting Down from 9/11. Papers sucked from buildings to create a kaleidoscopic sky as mighty jets of human cargo smashed all matter outwards, as if some evil genie escaped his lamp to make a fountain of dust and smoke to hang like an ominous mushroom cloud. The world held its breath in shock and despair, and the only euphoria came from bearded men devoid of any humanity. 4 planes full of fear, 3 buildings full of people, 3,000 victims lost in a new wilderness, 2 decades on a tranquil monument stands in a once manic plaza. 2 decades on, a tranquil monument stands in a once manic plaza. One voice is there to state the names of the slain, the office workers, the rescue workers, the tourists. One might think that nothing, not even a president or a ceremony, can totally mirror the misery in a place they came to call Ground Zero, or the loneliness of those who lived on. And can we say it will not happen again as more decades pass? That's the first one. And the second one's called Journey Around a Life. And that is, I could never accuse you of being clear-sighted. Your vision was more kaleidoscopic, picking up fragments of colour, going in for wrongs to be righted, shunning those tendencies to dwell on past laments, finding words from that fountain that seemed to spring up on those occasions. When you came to crossroads in your life, where at every mountain you tried to scale all the stumbles, cuts, abrasions from the thorn bushes in your wilderness, seemed to wrench your thoughts of tranquil dreams away from dreams of ever after white dresses, to show that bliss is not what it seems, no panacea for the distresses a supposedly shared life can pose. Yet you searched for and found euphoria, cast off empty ceremony, and rose up from your state of dysphoria, where loneliness had been your only friend and the face in the mirror did not smile, to find words and friends and love in the end, and a life that proved so worthwhile. Okay, there you go. Well, halfway through, folks. So we can have a cup of tea time.
Recording. Right. So these are 3 poems by Muhammad. Scarred by 9/11 and any terror. To be so vulnerable, feeling like one is waiting to let in more deadly craft, so that buildings smash to pieces, drawing out the sadness for years and years, one Christmas to another, letting the murderers go on, all the injustice an eye can see, to feel helpless in the face of a force of hostility, letting honest intentions go to waste, seeing dreams in tatters flow by with drain water, to be angry yet incapable, hurting one's hand hitting at any wall. One day, though, the waiting will end, and all the right minds will chime. And then Boris speaks. I care deeply for social care, still have COVID scars and scares, when Labour shows how people hurt as I raise taxes for Betty and Bert, I make sacking ministers my affair. And finally, rivers flowing inside of me. I have rivers of blue flowing inside of me. They contain red, the liquid precious to all. I see my veins inside of me, and they go their merry way. I contain streams like earth with free water, that flow will slow and cease one day. The flow that is inside of me, heeding the end of my heartbeats. But may the flow of earth waters never stop, even though the end draws near.
Amen.
So that was Mohammed, and this is Christine Snowdon, Your Kind Face. I was thinking I should start to pray when I saw your kind face. It lingered with me through the day and filled me full of grace. Another time you happened by while I was in the park. You smiled at me, I felt you say, don't linger after dark. Then your kind face appeared again when I had lost my way. You looked and said, don't worry, I'll help you day by day. And as the years pass by, dear God, it's your kind face I see. You're in a stranger or a friend, and every part of me. Christine Snowdon.
Right, thank you for that. Very nice poems. Yeah, I particularly like the last one of Mohammed's, and that one by Christine was very good as well. Yeah, good poems.
And I can't do Boris Johnson like Mohammed does.
No, I'm sure you can't. No, some people can, but not consistently because he's not consistent. Anyway,
right. So we come on to Sue's gone. So Jim is here. Hi, Jim. You good to go?
Yep. Okay.
Right.
The first poem is an acrostic poem. It's one I wrote very quickly. I attended a meeting of a monthly meeting of poets. The very first, probably might not go again. I don't know. But we had we've given some ideas, and I threw this together in about sort of 20 minutes or so. It's called Confessions, Obsessions, Regressions. And it's an acrostic, as I say, you can maybe work out. But nothing comes of nothing, as a wise man said. Or did I mishear out of pure fear, or the victims, the vacuum's supposed abhorrence? When the end time comes, when life is no fun, and holiness reeks in urine-filled streets, when each man has his price and the planet swerves to intolerance. Religion's a tool for wise men and fools, but earth is like heaven if you don't make the rules, while mothers give birth by chance or design, as their cries of distress mix with impure delight. Now my time's running out, like a river in drought. Anybody worked out what the acrostic is going down the?
I couldn't quite work out where the line endings were and beginning.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's actually nowhere, man.
Yeah, I got as far as NO and W.
Yeah, right.
But then I thought there were two W's, so then I lost it then.
Yeah, no, I you know, what I do is it's like at the end of a line, I sort of have an and then the word there. So it's a bit of a cheat.
Yeah. You know, it would have helped to have known that, because we could have worked it out more. Just look out for the ands.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Anyhow, the next one is called "No Man is Entirely an Atheist." Godless I'll go into that great good night, but thanks to the journey, thanks to the ride, the desire to sleep and never wake up. England so sweet when we won the World Cup. From cave dwellers' daubings to frescoes in Venice, there's been inventions like football and tennis. I've seen rhythm and blues meet country and western as Africa moved through the body of Presley. I've worshipped the womb, the joy and the pain, had respect for tombs, embraced the rain. The Big Bang beckons. Did dinosaurs dream? Life is a legend. I feel what I feel. So godless I'll go into that great good night. But thanks for the journey. Thanks for the ride.
That's a nice one, Jim.
Interesting one, Jim. Yeah.
Oh, just actually, since we might have a bit of time, I have fruit fly problem in my room.
So do I.
Yeah, they're so fast that you can't really squirt them or even hit them with it. But what you can do is you approach with one of these glasses. You can approach slowly, seriously, and they won't move. They just stay still, and you just slowly, even when it's surrounded them, they're still not moved. And when you've done that, of course, you can sort of put your hand there and then let them go or kill them. I'd usually kill them, but I evolved a clever method of not letting them escape. I put the glass underwater, you know, in a bowl, so that it opens and that the water comes in and they don't stand a chance. Oh, so pleasing myself. Thank you.
They're horrible creatures.
I have to deal with fruit flies.
I found another solution. If you get cider apple vinegar, right, pour it in a glass, and then put some washing up liquid in it, just a few drops of washing up liquid, and then put some cling film over the top and poke some tiny holes in.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this one. Yeah,
they will go in, and then it ends up like there's all little dots in it later on, you know, where they've gone in and dived and killed themselves on cider apple vinegar. Not very nice, but you know.
I'll tell you how they found their way into my place. I got some of those plantains, which are absolutely wonderful if you let them rot. You've got to let them rot so they're black and
very brown.
That's where the fruit flies came in. That's where they were. That was
anyway.
That was a
I
reason.
think we're still being recorded, so we better fly on to another subject.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Otherwise, the Fruit Fly Liberation Army will be after you.
Well, that's true. That's true. Right, now we're going to go back to Steve. Hi, Steve. Steve Rushton, please. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, hello everyone again. Yeah, this is a kind of poem, but it's also apropos this exhibition I'm mounting of 43 paintings. It's basically a list of all the titles of the paintings arranged to make some sort of poem. So it's very much in draft form. So a list of paintings that's also a poem. All paintings are abstract. Art can teach us what it's like. Sorry, let me start again. All paintings are abstract. Art can teach us what it's like to be. A good painting takes you somewhere else. Do you want to see me again? I hope you seem different every time. There's something hidden here, behind the gestures, over the horizon, underneath a darkening sky. in semi-autonomous space. Behind the brushstrokes, beware gestural activity. Paintings reduced to a lonely road, a well-trodden path, a picture postcard with no way forward, a commodity, sadly, because it's an oil painting. You cannot be serious. Painting is dead. Figurative painting is definitely dead. Is this figurative? For what it's worth, regurgitating past movements, is it really relevant? Is this elitist? The anticipation of reason, from here to eternity, whistle and I'll come to you, a triumph of form over content, the predominance of thought over action. For God's sake, just shut up. This is abstracted, not abstract. Some paintings are better than others. There's no way forward. This is so out of touch. Here's looking at you, kid. What is figuration? I know history, do you? Don't look now. Rosebud.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Well, that's wonderful.
See how it goes, yeah?
Yeah, you should be an art critic. Probably make more sense than most of them. So, yeah. Is that it for this
That's
evening?
it.
Or
Sorry, that's it.
okay. All right. Well, lovely to hear from you as usual. And we're moving on to Norman. You're muted still, Norman.
Oh yeah, so sorry, George. I'm just
okay,
listening
though.
in second. I'm gonna skip. I'm listening in second half, George. Yep.
Yeah, that's fine, Norman. All right. Anne, we're round to you in record time.
This is a Petrarchan sonnet called Shakespeare. Could you have known 400 years ago you'd be the genius of England's boast, of all her poets praised and acted most, studied in schools where you'd unwilling go to pick up unconsidered trifles, so you pass as educated amongst the host of London poets when to town you post? Could you have known how high your fame would grow? You'd never heard of the GCSE, ASAL, A2, and the degree that study of your plays and prosody could bring success in? You were more free, playing with language, flouting every ban to show us what a piece of work is man.
Serious.
Yeah, very good.
Can I read you two more poems?
Yes, please, Anne.
One of them is a poem I wrote to my great-granddaughter, who is now nearly 6, but this was written when she was about 4 months old. Great-granddaughter. Through the branches under the family tree, I look up and find I have become an ancestor. You, serious might, regard the world with thoughtful eyes, but for the lack of words, you could tell us what's what. In a few months, you've learned to pose, flirting in a sunbonnet, unashamedly chuckling behind a food-smeared face, waving paint-stained hands. But when you're not laughing, delighted to be the youngest, the most important person, I catch you reflecting again, looking round at the world you've been launched into, wondering if it was worth it. Usurping our places on the family tree, you start a new generation. What will you add to the lives that came before you? Will you grow up to be ordinary, like most of us? Or will you break new ground, invent, explore, write learned books? Will you become a master criminal? Con woman, perhaps? Your steady gaze admonishes us. You'll decide all that when you think the time has come. No need for us to worry. You'll be your own woman. You are already. It's in your eyes.
Wow.
And the last one is called 80. It's as if my 80-year-old head has been dipped in flour. It's as if my face has been left in the rain, drying when it has crumpled. It's as if my 80-year-old legs walk around in slow-mo when I hurry. It's as if I'm in a featureless desert, dry as a bone. It's as if I've become an elderly relative I can almost recognize.
Wow. Well, none of us think you're ordinary, Anne. You're a great poet and a tribute to us. Well, I'm not an octogenarian yet, surely, but a tribute to us older citizens. Very good. You're not ordinary.
Thank you,
Of
George.
course, of course.
Yeah, you're extraordinary. So then we're coming on to Martin. Good evening, Martin, again. Muted, Martin. That's it.
Evening, George.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, I'm just finding the button. I'm a bit slow. I'll do another one by Janice Fixter, one of our former poets who unfortunately died relatively young. So this one is Uncle Jack. On your wall, a framed collection of British coins, 1548 to 1971. Penny, shilling, florin, farthing, more besides. You point out each one, giving me current values. Polished coins once passed through 1,000 different hands, small, large, dirty, clean, in exchange for food, fuel, love, no longer legal tender. You tell me how your grandmother used to lay a farthing on the railway track to have it flattened by a steam train, turning the coin into a spinning bronze disc, barely any impression left of the bright-eyed wren. Both you and the coins come to life with the story's telling. Standing on tiptoe, I take a closer look at the gleaming farthing. I swear the wren turned his head and winked. And one from my favourite poet that I often quote. This is from Richard Wilbur, and it's a sketch. Into the lower right square of the window frame, there came with scalloped flight a goldfinch, lit upon the dead branch of a pine, shining, and then was gone. Tossed in a double arc, upward into the thatched and cross-hatched pine needle dark. Briefly, as fresh draughts stirred the tree, he dulled and gleamed and seemed more coal than bird. Then, dodging down, returned in a new light, his perch a birch twig, where he burned in the sun's broadside ray, some seed pinched in his bill, yet still he did not stay, but into a leaf-choked pane, changeful as even in heaven, even in Saturn's reign, tunneled away and hid, and then, but I cannot well tell you all that he did. It was like glancing at rough sketches tacked on a wall, and all so less than enough of gold and beaten wing. I could not choose that one be done as the finished thing. And something from me. This is a sonnet, Cruising at Night. The engine's thrum vibrates through every part. Each cycle of sound distracts me as I doze. Its pattern is engraved on ear and heart, as waking from the fog of dreams, I close tired eyes again before waking once more to endless waves of rattle, squeak and hum. Likewise, this sea of thought will always pour and seethe and bubble, though my lips are dumb. These trackless wastes of ocean bear me home. What there awaits me, what is left behind? Cleaving water, bows raised transient foam, restless of that turmoil in my mind. What is the cause and what the certain cure of statelessness all wandering souls endure? That was en route from Bergen to Dover aboard the Salga Ruby, 4th of June 2013. And one to close with, this is from the Supermarket Elegies, number 11, Lottery. Each Saturday they're there, now midweek too, long queues like lemmings, quick to choose to part with cash. They dare defy fantastic odds, and hope wins over sense. Though winnings are immense, few turn their pounds to wads of notes. It's Robin Hood reversed. Poor pay the rich to feed their gams itch. How many people would approve the projects funded? Museums, opera, bike lanes. What was as well heeled like? It's self-tax undefended. Thank you.
4 lovely poems there, Martin. Thank you very much. Appreciate they're really good. Thank you. Enjoyed them. Jim, did you have any more for us at all? Or no, you're okay now. I'm going to move on to Steve. Stevie J. Hi, Steve.
Hi, George. George, these 2 poems are actually from the Crichton Poetry Anthology, 2017, 2018. It's called Music. The great passion of my life, as it's spelt in it grabs my attention and takes me to another dimension. The sound of the Who, with Keith Moon's tenacious drumming, perplexes me. The saxophone sound of Junior Walker and John Coltrane erupts my brain. Music, my great love, has given me an encyclopedic knowledge of many artists and sounds. The reggae message of Pablo Moses from his album Revolutionary Dream gives me a great upliftment, especially in times of spiritual need. Yes, the music flows, and the Everly Brothers Cafe's Clone is the luscious flavor of my all-time favorite record. And this one's called Musician. I read Charlie Parker's and Jimi Hendrix autobiography when I was 14 years old. My best friend at school at the time influenced me into liking jazz music, as he was a mutual fan. He liked the saxophone while I liked the trumpet. In Birmingham Center, we ventured into all the music shop, as he was after a tenor saxophone. I was just his sidekick trying to be like him. His interest in New Orleans jazz gave me an overall understanding of the sound of jazz, which we both adored. Largely a roots reggae and dub music fan, John's enthusiasm for the likes of Sonny Rollins, Thelonious Monk, and Charlie Mingus had me hooked. In our last year at school, the art teacher, Mr. Blackburn, had a jazz band. We were a part of it. John played sax and I played keyboard, improvising 8-bar blues, which I taught myself and then practiced. Thank you very much, George.
Well, thank you, Steve. Some great musicians you mentioned there. Some wonderful musicians.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, now where are we now? So it looks like we're back to you and me, Peter.
All right.
Because Jack seems to have
Vanished.
Yes.
Into the darkness of the internet.
Yes, looks like so. Yeah.
I'm going to read a couple of poems by Patricia Beer. A Père Lachaise. October evening, leaves swoop down like owls and stun themselves upon the paving stones. A skip stands ready for a year of plague. Patches of fake fur begin to sprout upon the clothes of mourning visitors. Here death smells pleasant, dry like wine, not drought. This cemetery is not a killing field. It sanctions those who like to make love here rather than at home. Its dead are safe. Their tombs can tumble down above their heads, lie there and do no harm. It passes time, pampering its trees and hierarchy of beasts. A cat composed of mice and birds and rain turns his head, as scornful as a lighthouse. When is darkness deemed to fall in France? When do its cemeteries close down for sleep? Deep in the city, bells are suggesting nightfall, and suddenly, beyond a bend in the path, a whistle blows, less loud and much more peevish than the last trump. A man with a cross face comes round the corner, shooing us along. Husband takes the speckled hand of wife, and they walk back into the world together, happier than they were, perhaps, in spring. And finally, housewarming present. I am a lion, I am yours. I could be living out of doors at 125 St. Stephen's Way, couchant for ever and a day, if you would like me to. A man will bring me in a sort of van. I am a lion. Every part of me is stone except my heart. I will be loyal, brave and true and guard you always, all of you. Think of me as your friend outside, and you indoors shall be my pride.
I like it, Peter. I like it.
Right, thank you, Peter. I'd like to. I don't want to be morbid, but I do admire Irma's poetry a great deal, and I'd like to finish with two of her poems tonight. This first one is from her book Aloes and Brown Sugar, which she wrote, I think, in 1991. And the reason I'm reading this one is because some pretty horrendous things are coming out from China and America and Australia and us and France, and it seems the drums of war could be beating again. I hope not. But this one's called Dear Mr. War Minister. Dear Mr. War Minister, my son has no energy left to fight your war for oil that will not light his path to privilege or equality. My son will not stand on the podia of prestigious universities. My son will not die beside your son until he can call him brother. Dear Mr. War Minister, spit your nationalistic condemnations. Call him coward as he stands with the brothers on the battleground of the dole queues. My son still stares at prison walls, pace corridors mirroring torture in his eyes, sleeps in cardboard city under Waterloo Bridge, but not beside your son. Dear Mr. War Minister, my son will not die to keep the lamp of capitalism burning bright and light the paths of imperialism. My son his fight is to survive the sharp, cold floor of police vans, echoing the omnipresent kick ricocheting off his head. My son, he hawks the streets for jobs, like a sister picking up falling fruit in the market at day's end. His fight is not for the luxury of war or for oil. His blood will spill and mix with vomit, not sand, and not beside your son.
And very powerful, George. Wow.
Yeah, and the second one is from a book, Charcoal Woman, which I actually found the original New York artist drawing of that. I'll flash it up at some time to you. But this one is called London in 1992. And sometimes I think, things haven't changed a great deal. London in 1992. Earth has not anything to show more fair than Wordsworth's London from Westminster Bridge in September 1802. But dull my soul if I could pass by a sight so touching in 1992. Deep in the bowel of affluence, the homeless, hungry, the underclass, and the rest weave a city into an unforgiving landscape. The pregnant escalator, swollen with unborn dreams, casts shadows from Whitehall sleep on cardboard placentas. A young beggar and his dog sit unbroken in silent waiting. A young mother and her son watch the old black man, his work done, search out yesterday's bins. The stage is set, the theatre of the poor stage, a different kind of decadence for pennies. This Madonna, profanities fall from her lips like flies, brushing from a weeping sore, no virgin tongue these curses, heaped on the fat, the jeweled, and the guilty, dropping meager pennies in a cardboard box. Why have you chosen me? Though my clothes smell clean, my belly full, my stage is but a step away. Why have you chosen me to watch this tragedy deep in the bowl of affluence? You set me up to lofty heights to give my verdict with the rest. The play is in your hands, not mine. I am the Levite passing on the other side of your revolution, and God will look the other way. Pennies rain benevolence and scorn. Pennies weave a subterranean world. Pennies keep Whitehall sleep, but pennies feed the revolution safe underground. Underground. There you go.
Incredible.
Powerful.
Very good.
Incredible, George. Incredible.
Yeah. I can't read it like her, but it's great poems. Yeah.
You all suddenly come back again. I don't know why. I was fiddling around.
Have we
and
all
they
come back again, Mark?
reappeared. Yeah,
Martin?
you're all there now.
Well, we haven't been anywhere.
Proper rogue gallery.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, it's been a nice evening. It's an early night, isn't it, for us all? But